Well, it's Easter, the time of year where Jesus died but eventually managed to respawn after waiting 3 days of lag time, but still managed to end up on the wrong part of the map, hidden behind a boulder, so he had to use cheat codes in order to get out of his tomb. So we celebrate that by eating chocolate eggs. Christ, our culture is fucking weird. Anyway, this is the Easter edition of Curiosity's Sake, and boy do I have the perfect game to cover for it. The New Testament by M. Dickey. Bible-themed RPG, I want to say? I don't know what the fuck else you can class it as. Well anyway, in this you're a fan-inserted disciple of the man himself, Jesus Christ, and you follow him around, witnessing his miracles, and even get to perform a few yourself. That is, if you can figure out how the magic system works, because I fucking couldn't. Well, actually I figured out how to do it after I finished playing the game, but it's too late to do anything about that now. M. Dickey developed this game over 3 months, but considers the overall development time to be around 8 years, due to the many advancements that his games made during that time. For example, the combat is ripped straight from their Wrestling Empire game, turning the New Testament into an all-out brawl. I shit you not when I say that every NPC in this game is out for blood, and they're willing to hit, kick, stab or whack anyone who strikes their fancy. It's like Taiwanese Parliament out here. I would say that it's like living in some post-apocalyptic nightmare society, but considering that you can't hold on to anything for longer than 30 seconds without someone wandering over to you and snatching it off of you, I'd say that it's more like being in nursery or playgroup again. A lot of the game's features seem to have been lifted from other games, as it mentions rather proudly in the credits. It would seem that this is truly the developer's magnum opus, his life's work. Everything he's done so far has built up and amassed to this one game, so he is rather proud of it. Well, he was at the time. He has since done a review giving it an average score. So, are you excited yet? Because I fucking am. Time to go back to the year 37 and see what shit's going down. So you start off creating your own character. Well, actually you can have a randomized character or an imported character, but I decided to make my own. I wanted to make someone who would look very pure and mentally stable, and I think I did a good job of capturing him in my own likeness, as well as holding these two qualities. Ah, there we go. Now I'm ready to begin. So I'm dropped in the River Jordan. Well, not literally in the river, more on its banks, but I can go in it if I want. You might notice that the graphics make everyone look like Playmobil people, and in all honesty, I kinda like it. Not only does it have a certain charm to it, like how the mouth movements are clearly small black circles of varying sizes, and how the backdrops are drawn on, but I feel like everything is identifiable, and though the controls feel a bit weird at first, you can pick it up rather quickly. I will say that as natural as it can be to PC gamers, avoid using WASD to move, as you might end up accidentally kicking someone in the balls or up the arse. So I noticed that everyone is gathering in the River Jordan, prompting me to go and join them, where this Baptist guy is preaching about a saviour, and how one of us has the purity to be worthy of his teachings. I'm guessing that that person is me, since my name is synonymous with purity. Die! 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 Everyone starts flocking to this guy in fancy robes. I go and ask what his deal is, and he tells me that he's God himself and that he demands a gift in tribute to show his awesomeness. Well, sorry Baptist dude, but God needs this more than you do. So I give this guy the staff, and he tells me that I've learnt my first lesson, showing respect to those superior to me, and that I should wait for further instructions. Now, I immediately knew that something was off about this guy, but I couldn't place my finger on it. A lot of the stuff he said was quite contradictory to what little I read about Jesus before, and the fact that I stole something in plain sight and handed it to him as a gift pretty much confirms my suspicion that this guy may not be genuine. So I decided to have a look around for a bit, and I find this asshole sitting on the floor like some sort of beggar. I ask him what the hell he's doing down there when the Messiah walks amongst us, and he tells me that the true Messiah is waiting for me in the desert. Now, when it says that Jesus spent all of his time in the desert without food or water, I must admit that I had expectations as to what this desert would look like. Turns out that the truth isn't that impressive. Anyway, I approached the beggar dude and asked him what the fuck he's doing out there, and where is this teacher that's supposed to be the guy I blindly follow, because I'm quite incapable of thinking for myself, you see.
Yes! We're all individuals! You're all different! Yes! We are all different! I'm not.
I then find out that this dude, the humble long-haired dude, is actually Jesus, in the slightly warm flesh. Whoa. Anyway, Jesus decides he's going to teach me a few things about slumming it in the ghetto, and he tells me to meet him wherever there's a golden cross on the map. Now this is one of my actual gripes with the game. There's a golden cross on the tile that you need to go to advance the story. A good idea, since you wouldn't know otherwise, but the problem is that there isn't any way to see this map screen unless you leave an area. And this can either mean that you have unfinished business in the area that you just left and that you have to go back, or even worse, you'll find that the next item of business is 2 tiles in the opposite direction to the one that you've just landed on, meaning that you needlessly have to go through 2 load screens just because there isn't a bloody bastard map. But, oh well, at least I get to see inspirational quotes from Kanye West as I wait. Right, so I go to the next place where Jesus begins to teach me about the art of meditation. Unfortunately, I don't have a clue as to how to use the magic system, as I've said, but that's okay because I just solve most of my problems by smashing people in the face with a brick. I have to say that this is possibly the most violent game I've ever played. Not only can you inflict unsolicited damage on people with various objects, but you can also beat people to death with them. The damage on the body really shows. People can get black or even pink eye, and they can lose limbs, and even end up legless rejects crawling around the floor. Now this might come as a bit of a shock, but there's actually a legal system in this game, where you can be arrested, tried, and even executed for breaking the law. Of course, these laws don't seem to apply to the NPCs, and thus they can steal from, beat on, or kill anyone they want, without consequence as well, mind you. Truly the mark of an equal and just society. It also doesn't help that these people keep trying to pick fights with me. Like, I give this Roman guy a hug, so his immediate response is to kick me in the balls. The fucking prick. If he didn't want a hug, then why did he get so close to me? Why did he stalk me and follow me around all that time? So, I stab him a few times, stomp on his head, and then proceed to beat him to death with his own hammer. Which I apparently have no business handling such a thing, but fuck the police. Now I'm wanted for murder in Nazareth. Fucking great. In fact, it got to a point where I was wanted in so many places that I had to do an L shape around the centre of the map to avoid being latched to a cross, all because some asshole Romans can't keep their hands to themselves. The skirt-wearing ponces. So then I go to this well in Sickle where I proceed to meditate so that I can learn to feed myself with spiritual energy. When this bitch comes along and tells me that this little girl is my daughter, and I apparently knocked this lady up at some point or another, and now I'm a father of a 10-year-old black girl. I'm not really seeing the resemblance. Well, anyway, Jesus then tells me that the spiritual progression of my quest is being held back by bad karma, though I can't imagine what he's talking about. I haven't done anything that bad, have I? Anyway, he says he can sort it out for me by taking my sins onto himself. By golly, gee whiz, you're the best, Jesus. So then I sit around minding my own business, and that bitch from earlier comes back and snatches my hammer off me. Oi, you fucking cow! First you take my virginity and now you're taking my hammer? So I proceed to beat the ever-loving shit out of her, like any gentleman would, only for some Roman, who I assume is not only her boyfriend for the hour, but also the father of my child, and he steps in and tries to kick my ass. So then there's this three-way dance between me, this Roman bloke, and my slapper ex. I have no choice but to protect my family, and thus I have to beat this Roman to death and rule off Sicca as yet another place that I can never go back to. I know this might read off more as a diary than a game review, but this game is so fucking weird that I find it difficult not to talk about what actually happened whilst playing it. It's so bizarre and full of strange things that I never thought I'd see anything like this in a game. The objective of the game is basically just to follow Jesus from place to place and learn his ways. In all honesty, though the gameplay should be seen as shitty because of its lack of variety, I do enjoy reading what Jesus has to say. It's nice to be told the Jesus story with some insight as to what's going on in his head as he does certain things, and his philosophy of giving self-sacrifice. It's admirable in many respects, and I'm treating this as a fantasy RPG rather than a spiritual or historical one. I do like him as a character. I feel like this game does a good job of sharing Jesus' philosophy, and also justifying it as best as it can. I'm not gonna lie, I was actually pretty invested in this thing. So invested that I just ran from place to place trying to find Jesus to advance the story. However, upon further research, I have found out that a lot of this is inaccurate or very base. So I'm not sure, but I like what I'm reading. Jesus then tells me to get some food for the locals before throwing a full cup of wine across the floor. A full cup of wine that could have fed a poor person. I go over and pick it up, only for it to get swiped off of me moments later. Oi, you little shit! Then this little asshole has the gall to tell me that it's his wine and I should give it him back, even though he's obviously underage and shouldn't be drinking it anyway. So I proceed to kick him a few times before giving it to some black-robed dude. I feel like the controls could have used some work, to be honest. Attacking is awkward as hell and a lot of the time it's unresponsive. And then of course there's taking, sharing and throwing. All these commands use the X key, which baffles me because in situations like this, you either throw the item away like you want the other person to fetch it, or you eat it in front of them like an asshole. I also don't appreciate the way that Jesus tells me what I can and can't have. Like at one point I had a hammer and he told me to give it up because I shouldn't get too attached to worldly possessions. And then I had a sword and he told me to give it up because apparently if I have a sword in my hand I'm going to die by the sword. Like really man, can't I have anything? I'm not confessing eternal love for this shit, I'm just holding it in my damn hand. Prick. Going back to the controls again, jumping is awkward as well. I had jumped a couple of times by complete accident, but it wasn't until I actually needed to jump that I figured out how to. In order to jump, you have to tap the Z button, which is also used to run, whilst you're running, so it's awkward and weird. What, didn't you have enough to work with? I found out that to do the magic in this game, you have to sit, pressing the spacebar, and then hold the spacebar in order to do something. I don't know because I was never able to put it into practice. I did find the button to cast spells, and it is pretty funny what happens if you try without having any magic charged up. So, anyway, next I have to go to... Oh, fuck. So I make my way over there and I encounter Mary, who asked me to ask Jesus to come to Nazareth and meet her. Although I can't help but feel bad for her. Not only is she referred to as the womb that bore him, like, it's pretty sad that her vagina garners more respect than she does, but then Jesus, her own son, refuses to even give her a day of his life. What an arsehole. Anyway, we never get to see her or her vagina again, so who cares? Anyway, after a while, Emperor Palpatine runs over to me and informs me that I can use the Force to pull over objects to myself, instead of having to run after them like a dickhead. Hey, Mr. Sith Lord, could you, tell me how to use the basic principles of magic before giving me advice on how to use it? Bloody prick. Anyway, I sit down to heal, and this guy proceeds to set my balls on fire. Okay. So the next morning, this old fucker comes over and takes my nail from me, so I lay the smack down on him. I honestly think that I'm a goner, but then Sith Dude comes back and saves my ass. I managed to overpower and kick the shit out of the old bastard, but, oh, fuck. He's dead. So then I arrive at the temple where, holy shit, Jesus is kicking ass. Yeah, it seems that Jesus is here to kick ass and preach gospel, and he's all out of gospel. He seems to beat the shit out of everyone for defiling his father's temple. Now I knew that he trashed the place, but I wasn't aware that he kicked ass this much. Why wasn't that mentioned in the Bible, or in any of the film adaptations, come to think of it? Anyway, Jesus feels a bit bad about beating everyone up, so we decided to treat the temple as a temple and offer up a sacrifice. So after borrowing a pipe from a Roman soldier, which he had recently used on me as a weapon, because he's an arsehole, I managed to offer it up to God, for some snarky little shit to mock at how measly my offering is. Fortunately, my biffle, JC, is there, and he puts this shithead in his place. I also noticed that during his rant, he refers to God as a she. I'm not sure if this is a typo or if he's referring to God the Mother or something like that. I did look it up, and apparently God is referred to as she. But it is pretty weird, especially when he refers to the temple of his father's house. If he doesn't have a gender or even a body, shouldn't he be referred to as it or herm or whatever the gender neutral term is? Who knows? Anyway, I leave that area only to find that the Baptist has been latched to a cross. Can't help but find this conversation funny, because he asked me if I found a pure man, and I'm like, hell yeah, I found Jesus, it's great, life couldn't get better. And then he dies. Man, I feel like a prick now, especially after stealing his cane and all. Anyway, I leave and try to find Jesus, because I'm a little concerned for his safety, and I want the story to have a happy ending. I get the feeling that that's where it's going. So I come across him in a prison cell, where it's revealed that he hasn't paid his taxes, and therefore I have to pay them on his behalf. Fortunately for me, I conveniently find a big bag of money on the ground, which is apparently the exact right amount for Jesus to pay in tax. Whoa, I'm good at this. Maybe I should do the same for Gary Lineker. Anyway, Jesus turns out to be worth it, as he does notice that I've been banged up recently. And by banged up, I mean I look like shit. And so he uses his Holy
spiritual
shit, hey,
powers
stop
to
hitting
heal
my
my
biffle.
wounds.
Isn't
Turns out
Jesus
this guy's
just
name
the
is
best?
Osama. No, not that Osama, but that would explain a lot. And he's been possessed by an evil spirit or something. So Jesus exorcises him without even having to torture him. Actually, Jesus, I think you're doing it wrong. Don't you have to throw hot water in his face or something first? Maybe scream at him a few times and slap him.
Get out! Get out, in Jesus' name! Get out! Get out! Get out, Jesus!
Anyway, speaking of which, I encountered that Sith guy again, and he tells me that I can use my powers for evil as well as good, using them to blast fire at my enemies instead of punching them. Oh, I see what's going on here. Nice try, Satan. Gah, fuck. So it would seem that any physical damage thrown at Satan is right back onto you. Great. Just great. Well, if I can't overpower him with violence, I can at least confuse him by giving him a hug. Satan doesn't take too kindly to that and proceeds to kick the shit out of me. And finally, he finishes me off by possessing some guy and having him repeatedly stamp on me until I'm dead. And so ends the tale of my martyrdom, as I slowly am embraced by Jehovah's loving arms, dying in his service as I repel the evils and temptations of Satan, only to succumb to them. But this is not the end for the patron saint of curiosity's tale, children. For one day he will return to us as a messenger of peace, an eternal Wait, what? Where the fuck's my save? Are you fucking kidding me? The game deleted my save. This is so bullshit. Yeah, I shit you not. Every time you die in this game, the game erases your save data. Because that's what it's for, right? Imagine in Elder Scrolls, if you, instead of going back to your autosave or your proper save, you went right back to the beginning. Because your save was deleted. That would be a fucking piss take. Or if in Call of Duty, if you're halfway through the 5-hour campaign and you die at the 3-hour mark, you go right back to the start. It's so bullshit. This means that if I want to go back to where I was, I'd have to play for another 3 hours at least. Well, no, forget all that. It's a cardinal sin in game design to fuck the player over in that kind of way. So, I know there are some games that are brutal enough to take you back to the beginning, but no matter what, they have to send you back because that's how it's programmed. This game has a save feature. A save feature that self-destructs if you die. It's sadistic. The New Testament is a strange and rather enjoyable experience that can be played by any and enjoyed by all. No matter how deep or immersed you get, and whether you walk around kicking the shit out of people, randomly stealing, or even just jumping around like a jackass, or even if you actually try and learn the way of God and play the campaign, you're bound to get hours of entertainment out of this free game. Hell, the fact that it's free should be an incentive to at least try it. I mean, a free laugh? Those are hard to come by. So, I guess we've learnt a lot this Easter, haven't we? We've learnt about Jesus and what he preached, and what he did to preach it. And we learned that murdering Roman soldiers isn't the best of ideas, and that contraception is a good thing. We also learned why Jesus took 3 days to come back to life. It's because his fucking save data was wiped and he had to do everything again from scratch. Ugh, I think that about wraps it up. Join me next time when I play a game that's science fiction rather than religious fiction.
God of mercy, take me home, St. Peter. Why hast thou forsaken me?
Because you were an atheist until you hit the ground.
Mental note. Next time, find religion first.